everyone to nonperishablemarketing.com and the covering of just real basics of Adobe After Effects. First of all, the way you're going to have to start is you have to import some kind of content. You cannot create something in After Effects just out of nothing. You got to start importing something. Best way to do it is if you have already created some kind of images in Photoshop or Illustrator, you can import that file and it'll break it apart into the different components, which are then easily manipulated in After Effects. So the first thing you need to do is come over here to just in this box right here, right click, import, file. You can also come up here and say import file. Obviously I think this is easier, faster, import file. I have a file that I put on my desktop called kinetic type. Let's go ahead and import that. The way you want to import it is you want to retain the layers. That's very important. Okay, editable layers, live Photoshop 3D, yes, to all that, absolutely. So then we hit OK. Now you see that we just imported this little lower third, talking about a blog, super blog. Now that we've done that, we have imported our new media. Now, if your After Effects has already currently got some settings in it, you'll see that right now we have a 17-minute long video. Well, that's way too long. We're only trying to render out probably 15 seconds. To do a lower third intro, you don't want it to be more than 15-20 seconds. So you come up here to composition and you're going to say composition settings. In America, we use 29.97. That's the frame rate that we're going to use here in America. And then you'll see that the length of time is just way too long. So let's zero that out and move this to let's just say 20 seconds. I'm going to get rid of the 5 there. So then I've redone the length of time. Now every second is 30 frames. So when we look at this button down here, this is how you zoom in. You'll see that we're zooming in. Now you can see this is how many frames we're at. 15 frames. You're looking at each individual frame. Okay. You can also use this here. This does zooming, and this does zooming. So you can see here we're going to zoom all the way out and look at our entire 20 seconds. Now, in the very beginning, the first 4 seconds, let's say, I just want to look at the first 4 seconds. So when we're looking at the first 4 seconds, that's what we're going to work with to make these images fly in. But what we also want to do is we also want to change what we're actually rendering. So I'm going to move my render to right around 4 seconds or so. That way when I add some animation to this, I don't have to wait longer. I'll only wait about the amount of time that it takes to render out 4 seconds. So that's just some of the real quick basics of After Effects. Once we've done that, then we might want to look at the different layers that we have. So if we look at, let's say, these eyes work the same as they do in Photoshop, so you can see what you have. So that's, I'm going to rename this. Also, you want to, it's not a good habit to get into. Oops. It's not a good habit to get into, not naming your stuff. So let's try to name it. We're going to name this gray stripe. And let's take a look at what that is. That's the first layer, okay, layer 2. Alright, so I'm going to rename that red stripe. It would be easier if I had just automatically, already done this in Photoshop. So once we've done that, now we're going to come down here to transform, and you can see here is our anchor point, which means that everything rotates around that. So if you want to have this drop down, then you should put your anchor point right there. But for our purposes, it doesn't really matter. So at 2 seconds, I want it to be right there. So that means I'm going to click on this little stopwatch here and put a time frame right there. Now, in the very beginning, I want it to be off to the side. Whoops. Control Z to undo. I want it to be off to the side. And I put a little edge on there so that way it looks more dynamic as it flies in. So I'm going to pull it all the way over to the edge. Now, another thing is that if you don't know what I just did here, you can adjust this by the numbers, okay? Or you can just click here and drag it. So if you click, I'm going to click here and then drag it this way, or I'm going to drag it this way, okay? So that's another way to do easy manipulations. If you've done anything with Photoshop, you probably know how that works as well. So then I'm going to go ahead and select the gray stripe, transform well, let's see. I also want to see where I'm at. You see that little gray dot? Rather than having all this open, I'm going to close it, but I still see the gray dot right there. So I want that to fly in at, I want that to meet its, if it's offset a little bit, it looks a little bit cooler, you know what I mean? So I'm going to set the position there, and then starting a little bit off, I'm going to set this, but we got to be able to see it too. We're going to set this way over here. Okay, so now what we can do is we can show how it's going to look, and remember how we set the render, right here. So it's only going to render out this first 4 minutes, or first, excuse me, 4 seconds, which means that we should see what it'll look like pretty fast. So that's step one for making a pretty cool looking lower third. And I guess there's one other thing that I really do want to touch on real quick, and that would be how to allocate RAM. Now, how to allocate RAM is just going to make your After Effects perform that much better. And the way to do that is just simply go to Edit, down here to Preferences, and then you'll see Memory and Multiprocessing. Once you click that, you'll get a new window, pops up, and it says, installed RAM, 7.9 gig. So I have, this is an i7, so I have 8 cores, and then I installed 8 gigs of RAM. So you can see that we have certain RAM reserved for other applications and RAM that this program can use. You can also come down here if you really want to start to change some settings as well. And there's a lot you can do. Just saying, you can improve performance by eliminating other programs' ability to use these certain resources. So there's really your down and dirty After Effects basics. And again, you're going to have to start, if you're trying to make something more words like advertisements and stuff, you're going to need to start off with Photoshop or Illustrator files. At least that would be the way I'd recommend it. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. And again, non-perishable marketing. If you have a website, and well, if you don't have a website but you would want one, I can help you get one set up. Again, non-perishable marketing. Thank you.